Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at Q.U.B.E or Q.U.B.E. It's spelled Q period, U period, B period, E period. It's supposed to stand for something, but it really doesn't matter. This is an extension of a student project heavily inspired by Portal, and it came out in 2011. However, now we're in a weird position because this game also is not available on Steam and probably anywhere else because they made a director's cut in 2014, and I'm fairly certain you got the director's cut for free if you own the original. So unless you're obsessed with Steam achievements, which there's not a lot of reason why you should be, there's really no reason to play the original of the game. The director's cut has more story that ties it better into the sequel. The sequel is highly acclaimed from what I recall. The sequel came out in 2014, so even at that, well, the remake came out in 2014. I don't know when the sequel came out. Even at that though, these are hardly new games. I just finished covering the Talos Principle DLC Road to Gehenna, which it took me 5 years to get around to doing that DLC. But it's hard to make the justification to play the original form of this. It's like Blade Runner in the sense that that movie got 5 cuts, or some of the Aliens movies I know got lots of cuts too. We really don't want to, personally I don't want to see the video game industry get to the point where they're releasing multiple cuts. Nowadays you'd almost want to see this done as a patch or just re-release of the first game, so it changes the original game, because now people don't really complain if the original game is changed. But I imagine what happened, since this is an Unreal development kit, Unreal game, is that they wanted to move in the director's cut from the 32-bit version of the software to the 64-bit version of the software, just so it runs maybe a little bit smoother and can have better graphics. Yeah, so I guess that's what we're going to leave it on. The audio's too loud. By default, this game does not have it doesn't have 1080 resolution turned on. You can come up here and adjust it, and I've done that, but there's kind of no great reason for that, to not auto detect the default resolution for a game that came out in 2011. But I attribute this to being the expansion of a student project. Also, in the same vein, anti-aliasing is all at 0. Anti-stropy, which I don't even know what that is at 0. Dynamic shadows, dynamic lights, dynamic everything was pretty much turned off, and I just went in there and turned it on. Even except for bloom. Now personally I don't think I want bloom on, but I guess I'll turn it on just so as an experiment. Brightness I never adjust, so we'll leave it there. I will want to point out here, as I'm playing with the controller, let me bring out the mouse just for a second to show this back button, and this menu option is kind of in the worst place ever. Like you expect the back button to be here in the lower right corner or at the bottom of these options. You would expect a title bar that says options to be either in the top left or just bigger in general to make it feel like it is directly connected to these things. I had already adjusted the sound, but I feel like I'm gonna have to just adjust the sound some more. I usually have to do that. Let's see. Yeah, the menu and the sound effects just sounds really loud, so let's just adjust it. Like before that point that had been at the same point, but yeah, no, there are definitely some sound effects in this version of the game that that do not listen to the settings. When you load the game and you get a logo for Unity and some other software and companies that this game uses, that's extremely loud too. So I guess I'll just leave this here. Maybe a little bit down there. We don't want the audio to get too loud so we can talk over it. This says extras and DLC. As far as I can guess, there was no DLC. And since you can't get to the original game Steam page, if there was any DLC, it's long since gone now. All you have is stats and credits and Twitter page links and such. This is some basic stuff that was in at least the extended DLC of Portal 1, where you could play the game and try to take the least amount of moves. The last played date is interesting because that's something you really can't control, so I don't see why you'd make it so prevalent. Yeah, Twitter and Facebook must have existed. And that's pretty much all the setup we need to do. Let's hop in the game. We're gonna do one level, and that's about it, depending on how short the level is. Now this original version, I don't think it's completely 100% devoid of story. I kind of got the feeling that it might be that, but there is something to it in the story of the first game that they apparently wanted to go back and fix. We're on a floor, we're on an elevator, we've got a weird glove on our hand. Yeah. There is something to be thought of and said about going back and trying to tighten up the canon of your series in like a director's cut, but it kind of never works. Like, the best I think you can do is you can look at like the Marvel Comics storylines and say, well, the Marvel storylines in the comic books got slightly improved by being translated to the new medium of television, of movies, and perhaps in a reboot of a movie series or a TV series later on, we will they'll be able to tighten up the canon a little bit better, now that the Marvel movies are probably close to the end of their first generation. I assume this is an indicator of like counting. Very white, very Portal-esque. A jumps, so there's nothing in the main menu that was about controls as far as what buttons do anything. It doesn't even say it has. Interesting, I'm pressing the start button right now and it's not going back to the game. You have to go back and all the way to resume, and then you get that loud sound. Like, when you think about the comic book series Sandman, our hand just turned red. I believe we can extract certain colors, but not with the the right trigger. So maybe the left trigger. Yeah. So, up with left trigger, down with right trigger, and that's how we're solving all the puzzles, and with some jumping. But white walls cannot be moved. And you get a little dot here, which then makes it questionable why under advanced graphics can I not turn off the circular dot. Yeah, and honestly, I've been to the menu twice already. in this spotlight. There's something to be said about all of those options being just very default. I'll try not to do that again, and that's incredibly loud, I know. Well, I'm trying to pull this, and it doesn't want to go, so... Oh, it's not push or pull, it's up or down, apparently, on the single square face. Interesting. And there seems to be no real limit to it right now. Like, this is some basic stuff, but this is kind of where you would like to go with a game like this. It's slow though. Like, the turning radius here is moving really slow, and that's something Portal 1 never had. They are doing the Portal 1 thing that's smart about basically locking you in a room and making it impossible to move forward. So, at the moment, it seems like the colors don't mean much. But I guess maybe it does. So, pulling this does nothing. Pushing it causes it to bounce up. Let's see what it looks like there. Okay, so this is, you push it and you prime a jump, and then you get one opportunity to jump. Let's see, let's just try a couple buttons here. Well, B put his hands away. So hands are out. No, I don't, maybe it just did that automatically. No, it seems like B does put your hands away for a while. Nothing on the D-pad, nothing on the left stick. You jump with the left stick click. Nothing on the back button. I'm playing with an Xbox One controller. But it's basically the same as an Xbox 360 controller, which is what this would have been. I believe this was on Xbox almost as early as it was on PC. Okay. So I think what I just did there is set up a platform for me to land on. That being said, that seems kind of hard. So that wasn't as much of a high-flying jump as I thought it was going to be. I thought I had to actually land on that. But I did have to pull that out as a platform. But you know what you're not having here is you're not having GLaDOS talk to you, you're not having any music, you're not having any environmental world building. You're really not getting grabbed into the experience like you would have been at the beginning of Portal 1 or Portal 2. Interesting, it seems like these all work together, so you have to decide which one you want. So here's a question. That does that, and then there's no readjusting it. Man, the targeting is not great. So there's really some control sensitivity issues happening here that would make this hard to be the way I would want to play something. Yeah, we've got music, just subtle ambient music playing in the background, but we don't have a real introduction to the story. Like, and I said I was gonna do the first puzzle. That's kind of impossible to do the way this is set up, unless all of this room is the first puzzle, which it probably isn't. Now, Portal, in all fairness, was also based off a student project also. So, called Vernacular Drop, and I imagine it was probably even worse than what this is. Let's put that back and do an upside down one. I'm a little surprised that worked. Interesting. Does it always have to work with 3? So does that mean I screwed up? Yeah, I can't do that one either. So this forces you to pick the middle one. So then you can do that later. I would argue what they've done here with the blue platforms is too tied into the main concept. When you see in Portal the platform launchers that just shoot you anywhere, they don't have anything to do with the portal gun. They just reset themselves automatically. When you touch them, they shoot you up in the air. I think that would have been better. And there's a pretty obvious decision here. Like, oof. I don't know if I'm really about to die or what. Like, they're doing the whole Portal thing of trying to make this seem dangerous, but I don't know if it really is. Yeah. So there's, I assume, a 4th color. We may not get to the point where we see that 4th color, though. Am I supposed to jump? This feels like, yeah, you're just supposed to jump. And that's all there is to it. So we get a blinding light, and that's room 1 of what seems like 9. And there's some basic things here that are missing. Like, it wouldn't have taken too much to write some basic story, have a note somewhere that's picked up, have something on the wall. That's something, like, for this being inspired from Portal, there's things clearly they did not understand. Seems like my gloves are not going to come up. Or did the game just glitch? Or do I not have the gloves right now? And you can't push blocks, which you would have definitely kind of nicely been able to do if you could push certain kinds of blocks. Okay. So we now know that the yellow reset button, which this is hardly the universal symbol for reset, it's more of an undo button, but doesn't even mean that either. Means rotate counterclockwise. But apparently it will reset slashed green blocks to slashed green spots. But we'll be manipulating, I guess, the greens in different ways. Let's see. Okay, so I get it up to this point, and I guess I was just using it as a stair. Take note to make this look right in a line. They've made the green blocks smaller in scale than all the other blocks. And there will be some puzzle here, certainly, but it seems kind of obvious. Alright, so what would be interesting to see is what happens when you do that. That happens, okay. Yeah, this is asking quite a lot, honestly. You can shoot right through this guy, but they've really had to slow everything down to make that doable. There's a big difference, I would argue too, between the first group of students at DigiPen who've made Novarkil drop and did something that nobody had really even seen it before. Entire concepts that had not been done in that way or even explored at all, and another student group then kind of just copying it, you know? And I get it. If you're in school, maybe you don't waste your good ideas in school. But particularly sometimes that might be a cause for concern, because some colleges will straight up claim copyright on the things you work on. And you know, people's master's thesis and doctorates and things like that. So, and then even leaving that out of the picture, there is a certain level of just saying, well, this is not my main focus, is to make the best game ever. As a student project, you don't have time, you don't have funding. But it really feels like they didn't even try in some elements. This, to me, feels like what we're gonna have to do is something like this, and then something like this to make a floor. And then I think what we want to do is I assume what we're trying to do here is make a pathway that a ball could roll down all the way. And then is this, like, this doesn't even feel like the finish. I guess the green has to land on this in order to break that glass for me to reach it. So, but you're working with cubes here, so this is slightly confusing. Let's see what happens. One green ball rolls down. Okay, so it needs a little help. And I can't push it. Odd that a physical object that, since every other physical object interacts with me, the green ball doesn't. I would definitely have had it feel more like a hologram if that was going to be the case. Alright. There we go. And so it goes through there, and that's good enough. So, yeah. I just came off of the Talos Principle DLC, The Road to Gehenna, which is puzzles just like the main game of the Talos Principle that have the feel and polish of Portal but don't really look quite like Portal at all and don't use portals at all. This is a much smaller project from a smaller team, certainly, just a group of students, so I can't really expect that much polish, but there's things missing here. There's no story. It feels like, well, there must be a small implied amount of story that the director's cut is going to add. It feels to me like we have done 2/9 of the entire game. The puzzles don't feel like they can really ramp up too much because we're just going to plug in all the boxes. Like, we can't jump and we can't run, and it's just not smooth. We can't turn off the cursor here. We've got no real reason to not just sit here and wait to die. If you've ever seen the horrible sci-fi movie Q.U.B.E, that may very well be the right solution to this, because you're not even promised escape. You're just going forward because it's a video game and that's what you do. The menu audio is messed up, certainly, and we've gone about 30 minutes. The only reason I could ever see myself coming back to play this is again, like I said at the beginning, if you just want to get all the achievements, and this game turns out to be pretty easy to get all the achievements, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Now, Steam only really highlights games that you get 100% completion in, so if you were interested in that, you might have to, you could play this game and then you could play the director's cut, but I'd heavily recommend just playing the director's cut alone, and clearly the creators of this game feel the same way because they removed the original version of the game, so it just becomes this kind of historical equivalent to like a beta. That's kind of what it feels like, is this is just a beta. None of the visual settings, like ambient occlusion, I think would ever come into play. Like, I don't think you're gonna get light bloom per se that much in a white room. I don't think you're gonna have a lot of problems looking down hallways. And in a lot of ways, unfortunately, it has become this for Steam. This looks very much like a Steam Unity or Unreal Store asset flip. Like, it's easy to get a set of hands and get white cubes and make a few screenshots that look way better than what this does and sell a game that barely lasts 30 minutes. There's another game called The Turing Effect that looks like a lot more of a polished version of this game too, so we're kind of going through the list of a lot of games that were inspired by Portal. Unfortunately, that is also kind of dried up too. We haven't had a 3D environmental puzzle game in the past couple of years, and that might be for the better, it might be for the worse. We could probably do with one, but it needs a mechanic, and this game in particular desperately needs a mechanic. Like something other than just extruding cubes, which is what I believe is what one of the E in Q.U.B.E stands for, is extrusion. Well, let's leave it here and let's start playing. In the next recording, I will start playing the director's cut. That's going to be it for this spotlight, this video. As always, I end my episodes the same way. I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that's what YouTube demands of me, to make my videos viewable to other people. When you subscribe, please click the notification bell. That way you know when an actual new video comes out. And if you want to friend or follow me on any other social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description. If you want to support me even further than all of that, which would be greatly appreciated, there's a link to Patreon. Or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a gift card or gift me a game off my wish list. That's very helpful too, as a one-time gift. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.